So today is our third in the series. We've got a series of 4 on the Secret Doctrine, and that's one I've been particularly looking forward to, Martin. The third fundamental proposition and the evolutionary chain of beings. Welcome to the session. Thank you, Martin. So all
Thank
yours.
you, Richard. Thank you again, Richard. Beautiful word. This talk is about the third fundamental proposition in the Secret Doctrine and the evolutionary chain of beings. This is a very important topic, and they both go hand by hand. And that's what I'm going to try to explain. Now, as you all know, and I hope you know, if not, please know, the Secret Doctrine has postulates, those are words from Blavatsky, too big, 6 fundamental propositions, 3 in cosmogenesis and 3 in anthropogenesis. And as she said, they are meant to be the foundation of the Secret Doctrine in both volumes. So in general, the first fundamental proposition, or maybe you can read them, Susan.
Sure. Okay, so from cosmogenesis, we have Venus, or space, an omnipresent, eternal, boundless, and immutable principle, and the 3 logoi. Second, the eternity of the universe in toto as a boundless plane, periodically the playground of numberless universes, incessantly manifesting and disappearing, and the eternity of the pilgrim or monad, the 2 in 1. It is the only immortal and eternal principle in us, being an indivisible part of the integral whole, the universal spirit from which it emanates and into which it is absorbed at the end of the cycle. And 3, the fundamental unity of all souls with the universal oversoul, the latter being itself an aspect of the unknown root, and the obligatory pilgrimage for every soul, a spark of the former, through the cycle of incarnation or necessity, in accordance with cyclic and karmic law during the whole term. And then anthropogenesis itself has 3 fundamental propositions, those being 1, the simultaneous evolution of 7 human groups on 7 different portions of our globe. 2, the birth of the astral before the physical body, the former being a model for the latter. And 3, that man in this round preceded every mammalian, the anthropoids included in the animal kingdom.
Thank you. Thank you. So today's talk is about the third, but let's review the first 2 in cosmogenesis. Usually on the first fundamental proposition, most people, when they explain it, they say there is an absolute. And they talk about the absolute like a thing or a being or a God. That's why I don't use that word absolute that Blavatsky loved, because immediately people say, why the absolute needs something, needs me? Why the absolute created the universe? Why did the absolute and the absolute? And they always refer it like a being or a God or a thing. And therefore, that can be removed by saying, instead of the absolute, beingness or space. Don't you agree? When you say that there is a fundamental proposition, that there is a mystery there, and let's call it space, well, everything stops. What is space? It's a mystery. I just said that. So nobody can explain where it came from, where it's going to. Well, it's space, it's eternal, it's omnipresent. All the good things that Blavatsky wrote about the first principle, and she gave 4 attributes to that. The first line, please.
An omnipresent, eternal, boundless, and immutable principle.
Thank you. This is our part of our first fundamental proposition: omnipresent, eternal, boundless, immutable. And then she says later on, the Mandukya Upanishad tells us, don't think about it, don't talk about it. And we talk so much about it. It's so beautiful. And but I like to promote the idea that instead of making it a noun in the sense of, or an object like the absolute needs you think about as space. Just like in the first talk, is the black background of a white circle. So it's the container of our universe. But our universe, Blavatsky said, that disk, white disk, in this black background is everywhere, occupies the same space as space. Why? She said that this circle has a center everywhere, and the circle, the circumference nowhere, or vice versa. She said it's the same idea. The idea is that circle as a circle is a metaphorical word, an analogy, geometrical, sacred geometry, a symbol for our mind. But the space of our universe occupies the same size as the great mystery of all, space. You see that? So that is a conception. Second, as you read incredible lines like this in the Secret Doctrine, my recommendation is, as you read it slowly and visualize it. Bring it internally so you can contemplate it. So if these are not words, these are a sacred mystical imagery that talks to our soul if we pay attention. So please, this is the reverence that we need to have when we study sacred books like Upanishads and books on Kabbalah, and the Secret Doctrine, the Voice of the Silence, etc., etc. It's a contemplative process. So see it, bring it inside, contemplate the imagery, and see how they tie together. Now, besides the idea of beingness and space as an omnipresent, eternal, boundless, immutable principle, Blavatsky also spoke about three logos in that. And I think I have something about that. But later on I'm going to show you more. The second, look at the vocabulary of the second fundamental proposition. If you remember, the first axiom in the Secret Doctrine, occult, because it's difficult to see with our senses, is everything in the universe is eternal and periodical at the same time. Very important, at the same time. Eternal and periodical. The universe, eternal and periodical. Human beings, eternal and periodical. Everything. The elements are the periodical aspect of one element. All the lives that we see in this universe are periodical aspects of the one life, the one force, the one law. That is eternal. But in a world that is periodical, everything is periodical. Please think about this. Look at it in the Secret Doctrine, how everything is described as eternal and periodical. So when you ask questions like, why if I'm eternal, I'm periodical? Well, that's a law of nature. That is a statement. It's another mystery. This is the way it is. And if you say why the absolute created like that, absolute is space, it doesn't create anything. You see? So it is what it is, and the Secret Doctrine tells us it is what it is. The eternal tells us that it's forever, no beginning nor end, that is boundless, omnipresent, is outside time and space, and yet manifest and rest periodically at the same time. So you have to come to terms with that. Therefore, in the second fundamental proposition, and I'm sorry the lettering is in blue, it should have been black. is the vocabulary, therefore, is there. The eternity of the universe in total, right? As a boundless plane, periodically. You see that? Eternity of the universe, periodically, the playground of numberless universes. You see that? All in serial, all in serial. They are not several universes here in Theosophy, but in science fiction there is, and we love science fiction. So, but there is something about that I want to refer later on. Also, the second fundamental proposition tells us that we are eternal. The eternity of the pilgrim or the monad, the two in one, Atma Buddhi, is the only immortal and eternal principle. But we emanate from Alaya. We studied that last time and the time before. Look again in the proem, page 1 and 2 and 3, and you see yourself and in this obligatory pilgrimage that is the third fundamental proposition. So even though our monad is eternal, and we're going to see more about that, we manifest periodically. And here's the key. What do we do with every time that we manifest? Blavatsky in the Key to Theosophy gives us a very good image of our lives. She said, we are actors and we are bees. Bees, actors, we play a role in each life, but we also are bees collecting honey, wisdom. And wisdom resides in our immortal soul, and it's like reminiscence. Is that okay? Reminiscence. She called reminiscence the memory of the soul. That is wisdom. So we play in our role. My role is Martin, and I have a family, and I'm a theosophist. I have a job. I'm retired, and I play my role. But the purpose of life is as a bee. It's a beautiful image, don't you think? Is collecting that honey, not knowledge. I'm not going to repeat this. I'm going to internalize, contemplate, and let the light of that idea illuminate my soul, and now it becomes forever. When I wake up in my next life, in my next role, it will be there as wisdom. It's very interesting. So look, we have an eternal beingness and space. The rest of the fundamental proposition, the number one, is to tell us about the periodical nature of beingness and space. Isn't that interesting? The Mandukya Upanishad says, don't think about it. Blavatsky is going to teach us how to think about it, how to visualize it, how to contemplate. That's the next slide. Then the third fundamental proposition is the topic today, and we're going to see that in detail. The three of our anthropogenesis, well, you will have to invite me back, huh? Isn't that something? If you like. But in general, here they are. And the most difficult thing to explain, nobody explains this, is the word simultaneous, because we are taught that there are 7 human root races, and we are in the 5th, and they are not simultaneous. So what's that word simultaneous in 7 parts of the globe? So you want to hear that story? Yeah, someday. So, and then you have the other 2. They are very important. They are the fundamental, the foundation of the Secret Doctrine. So let's talk about this beingness, space. Other words that Blavatsky uses for is on the left side of the slide. Beingness, space. And every time that I read these words, or you read them, remember, contemplate them. It starts with an image, bring it inside of you, see it, and if you see it, you see the light of them. That's how you know you're seeing it. Okay, so on the left side is the eternal aspect of this first fundamental proposition. On the right side is the periodical aspect. When we say periodical, it means manifestation and rest, correct? Okay, so in the eternal aspect, the words are beingness, space, chaos, void, absolute, and these are various traditions. Remember, she took the word absolute from the Europeans, and she describes here where and what they think, and et cetera, et cetera. Also, in the Secret Doctrine, and here are the quotes. By the way, Richard, what I want to do is when I finish the 4, I want to email you this presentation that people can ask if they want to. The reference are on page 43.
Yeah.
You like that idea?
Yeah,
okay.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so so if you want a reference, you don't have to watch the whole video. You can just see the slide number and see it. In page 43, Blavatsky tells us that this eternal principle can be seen in 3 ways. As an absolute abstract space, right? We saw that space, the great mystery. Absolute abstract time or timelessness or duration, and 3 aspects, and absolute abstract motion. This is very important because these 3 aspects in the periodical nature manifest as the universe, the container of galaxies and stars and planets, solar systems and black holes and quasars and all the beautiful things that they are discovering. The abstract time or duration give us the sense of time. So the sense of space in a now concrete universe, right? Manifested universe. But motion gave us the idea, and she called it breath, giving us the great image of a dragon. And she's going to use that image to describe the 3rd logos. By the way, the idea of the absolute as eternal becomes 3 logoi, and we spoke about the 3 logos earlier last month. And that's on page 16. She describes them and et cetera, et cetera. So Plato also talks about them, and on the book Notes on the Bhagavad Gita or Lectures on the Bhagavad Gita by Suvarro, he expands it perfectly. So perfect that she quotes him. So then in page 15 and 18 on volume 1, this is Secret Doctrine, volume 1, she explains the absolute, but in different terms. This is very scientific, so to speak, occult science. Here is theology. It's Parabrahman and Mula Prakriti. And that is very interesting. So there are 3 ways to understand this beingness or space. As an absolute, remember, not a thing, not a being. As abstract space, abstract time, and abstract motion or duration. She likes the word duration. That was coined by Newton in his book on nature. But also she went into Vedanta and other traditions and said and wrote, you can also see it as Parabrahman and Mula Prakriti. Then in the periodical aspect of the universe is spirit, matter, Purusha, and Prakriti. You see that? Spirit and Purusha, Parabrahman, and Mula Prakriti as matter or Prakriti if you are in India. But the universe also is in state of rest, pralaya. In a state of rest, this absolute, these 3 logoi become or now are in this dissolution of the universe at rest. She describes it as a state of absoluteness. So please incorporate the word absoluteness when you refer to something that is eternal and periodical, but now we are at rest. That's why very famously, and please, I know you're going to memorize this line. There's another way, huh? And it's when she describes in page 21 on the poem, the first stanza, and the first stanza we're going to see next week is the universe in Pralaya, she reads she says the following, the up to here, right?
Okay. The first stanza describes the state of the one all during Pralaya.
Remember, the one all, as stated in this slide, is the universe, is the periodical aspect of this eternity.
Before the first flutter of reawakening manifestation. A moment's thought shows that such a state can only be symbolized. To describe it is impossible, nor can it be symbolized except in negatives, for since it is the state of absoluteness per se, it can possess none of those specific attributes.
So you
in
see,
positive terms.
Correct. So stanza 1 and stanza 2 relates to a state of the universe, the one all, at rest in Pralaya, but can be described in negative terms. Time was not, mine was not, and so on. But when she describes in a positive way, she's describing it in a state of absoluteness. And life pulsated. Darkness alone was so there are descriptions in negative or in state of absoluteness. Absoluteness means that if you know that there is a black background, the mystery space, and it contains the universe, the one all. In Pralaya, this universe, the white circle, is dark. In dark background is a state that looks like the absoluteness, but it's only the idea of absoluteness. You see that? It's not the absolute, it's the idea of it. Sorry, did you?
We have a question, Martin, from Ganesh. He says, thank you, Martin. On the first proposition, you also touched on the Upanishad. The Vedanta or Upanishads interpret the beingness, the definition of the absolute or the ultimate reality being, eternal, infinite existence, eternal, infinite consciousness, that is Brahman, is Satyam, Sivan, Anantham. Will you agree that this description is similar to the definition of Mula Prakti and Para Brahman? Thank you in advance for your thoughts.
Yes, it is exactly that. So the idea here is because there is only one eternal beingness. When you see it, and she said it can be symbolized or can be seen as such, you are seeing the two in the one, because nobody creates the two here. So you are seeing two things. You see, about the absolute, you cannot talk about it because it's just emptiness, it's just space. But when you see into it, what you are looking at is at the universe, the one all in Pralaya. This is what the human being can do. And that's a state of absoluteness. And that's what we're going to cover next month. In other words, when you see the point in the circle, the point, remember, is the cause of all, the root of all, the universe, the one all, the germ, the first logos, and so on. If you have a super microscope that you can look into that point, you see the two. But if you are in Pralaya, you see Parabrahma and Mula Prakriti. But they are at rest. So they are in a state of absoluteness. You can't see the absolute. It's dark, it's empty, it's void, it's space, it's absolute, it's beingness. It's very beautiful. So always in my advice is look like you did for ideas in other traditions to expand theosophy and see how they describe it. Are they describing this black background or they describing the one all at rest? You see that? So if you're describing the one all at rest, you can say, oh, when I look at it, I see the eternal parent wrapping her ever invisible robes, slumbering for 7 eternities. In the explanation, Parabrahma Mula Prakriti. And they say they both one. What is that one? The eternal beingness, space, void, absolute, chaos, Ein Sof, etc., etc. I don't know if I answer it, but it's all of that at the same time. Remember, everything on the right side at the end of the day, at the end of the kalpa, the cycle, it becomes one. That one turns off and it becomes absoluteness. And there is no, there is no way to tell the difference.
Could you say that when considering the idea of Parabrahman and Mula Prakriti, that you are considering the emergence of spirit and matter in the future, but it's
Yes.
inherent. It's
Yes.
inherent. You're not the future potential.
Exactly. So that's exactly what's happening. When nobody creates two, let there be two, Mula Prakriti and Parabrahman. Nobody creates that. So like the seed, like the germ, in it, you have to have the whole tree of life. And this is what Blavatsky stresses. It's extraordinary. The key is to see that they both one, and at the same time, eternal and periodical. In its eternity, unmanifested, immutable, omnipresent, never changes, doesn't care, it doesn't need us, right? And so on. So in this chart, I try to explain or create an illustration of the vocabulary that Blavatsky uses to explain the eternal and the periodical. And this is a fascinating subject. So look for the vocabulary like you just did about how this is described in Theosophy and in other traditions that you like. In the second fundamental proposition, because we're going to talk about the third, expresses that the monad is also eternal and periodical. The eternal aspect is our higher self, is the Atma. You see here is Atma, Atma Buddhi, and because the monad has the nature or participates in the nature of Atma, then is an Atma, Blavatsky said in the Key to Theosophy, in the Secret Doctrine, is a ray of Parabrahman, then that is eternal. But then it needs a vehicle, a substance to move. A vehicle in Sanskrit is vaham, is the vehicle to descend and manifest and express and function and fulfill its destiny. So what is the destiny of anything that manifests? Well, the Neoplatonist Proclus defined it really well. It has the need to go back. It has the need to keep generating, and it has the need to express itself. So the number 4 in the cosmological order has the need to generate 5, if you can follow me abstractly, but it wants to express what it is in itself, 4, but it remembers 3 and wants to go back. That is the solution. And the other is Manvantara. And the other is being oneself. I don't know if you can follow that idea from Proclus explaining Plato, but it's very, very beautiful. Regarding Buddhi, the vehicle of Atma, and in this diagram, which is much better than the triangle and the square, that is the basic sevenfold constitution in the esoteric instructions, plate number 1, Blavatsky symbolized Atma Buddhi as the sun and the moon. That reminds you the solar boat in ancient Egypt and so on and so on. The winged sun in every tradition is a very beautiful expression, right? Symbol. Buddhi becomes in this the moon as the vehicle of the sun, reflecting the power and the laws from that logos, from that sun, from that center of all, Parabrahman. But Buddhi is a spark, a drop, of the ocean of the soul of the universe, the universal soul, Alaya, Akasha, Mahat, Isis, Juno, Ceres. I mean, all these Maya, all these goddesses represents the third logos, Alaya. This is why in the voice of the silence, remember this forever, research Alaya. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, Alaya. It's like Himalaya or something like that, Alaya. Blavatsky said, Alaya is our inner master. Alaya is the purpose where we came from and where we're going. It's the purpose of our pursuit of perfection. It's the source of luminosity, and it's the source of all our wisdom. Therefore, what Blavatsky is telling us in the Voice of the Silence, in every great mystic, like in the myth of the cave in Plato and so on, is when the mind realizes that the pursuit of life is worth living, like Socrates said, is to find the higher self, Buddhi Atma. You connect with Alaya. What are you connecting when you contemplate Alaya within you? The deeper you go in you, the more expansive you are in the universe, because this is a universe. Alaya is the third logos, is the white disk. Isn't that incredible? And that we're going to see more of that in the next talk, in the stanzas of Xian. It's just incredible what Alaya is. And that is the subject matter of contemplation in the Voice of the Silence. So please look for quotes on Alaya and ask yourself, why? Why is my inner master? Why do I need to concentrate on this? Why do I need to contemplate and be one with it and get the illumination in that way? So in this chart, and this is a tool I use, I always illustrate processes, functions, descriptions, imagery. I look in museums, in books, and of course in the Akashic records, which we call Google nowadays, right? I mean, that's obvious, right? We look for imagery that talks about and describes Fohat, Alaya, the soul of the universe, and so on, so on, so on. So, eternal and periodical. So what would you do? You need to feel the eternal, because that is called later on the monadic impulse. No matter what we do, Atma Buddhi is a magnet that is pushing us and attracting us. It's pushing to be a bee, collect that honey, to have roles in life, but at the same time, it attracts us back to Alaya. That's the cycle of manifestation and dissolution. Hope you can follow me. Therefore, the third fundamental proposition. Will you read it, please?
The fundamental identity of all souls with the universal oversoul.
Do you see it? The identity of the souls are Alma Buddhi with the oversoul, which is the universal soul.
The latter being itself an aspect of the unknown root.
That root is the first logos. The first logos is the cause of all, the root of all, is the dot in the center of the circle, but also it emerges from the void. This is the beauty of eternal and periodical. It emerges. The white circle always had a point in the proem, but that point when we realize it, it's like it emerges from the white circle.
And the obligatory pilgrimage for every soul, a spark of the former, through the cycle of incarnation or necessity, in accordance with cyclic and karmic law during the whole term.
Do you feel the obligatory pilgrimage? I want to remind you that it's obligatory. You cannot get out of this. Death is just necessary. It's just our friend, like Blavatsky said in our Secret Doctrine. Why? It's part of our periodical nature. It's important in the secret. I'm sorry, in the key to Theosophy, section 9. Read it well. Explains it in perfection why the cycle needs to be birth and death, not life and death. Life is above all that. It's a triangle. Life is on top. Birth and death is the cycle. Remember, the eternal is the one life. Birth and death is periodical, and we are eternal and periodical. Start thinking like that. This is Theosophy. This is divine wisdom.
In other words, no purely spiritual Buddhi, divine soul, can have an independent, conscious existence before the spark which issued from the pure essence of the universal sixth principle, or the oversoul, has passed through every elemental form of the phenomenal world of that Manvantara, and B, acquired individuality, first by natural impulse, and then by self-induced and self-devised efforts, checked by its karma, thus ascending through all the degrees of intelligence, from the lowest to the highest manas, from mineral and plant up to the holiest archangel, Dhyani Buddha. The pivotal doctrine of the esoteric philosophy admits no privileges or special gifts in man, save those won by his own ego through personal effort and merit throughout a long series of metempsychoses and reincarnations.
Thank you. When you read a very thick paragraph in the Secret Doctrine, which each page have 20 of them, appears, how do you study this? And I'm going to show you how I do. I break it in its elements, and I study every element, and then I put it all together. Remember the method that Plato proposes in the Parmenides, in the Timaeus, in the Secret Doctrine, in the Republic, and in his letter number 7. You like a topic, you find its parts, you build a whole, you contemplate, get to the one, the oneness of it, right? So you break it in pieces, and in the first part is, as we already explained, the fundamental identity of Buddhi with Alaya, the Anima Mundi, Akasha, Mahat, etc. The latter being itself an aspect of the unknown root. The unknown root usually is the point in the circle, but Blavatsky also calls it Swabhavat or Mula Prakriti, or sometimes Parabrahman. These are words that come from other traditions. So that's why we compare and contrast the theosophical vocabulary with other traditions. Sometimes Blavatsky refers Parabrahman as the absolute, sometimes as no, it's not the absolute, it's absoluteness, because she looks at it from the point of view of, I'm looking at the one all, I see Parabrahman and Mula Prakriti. I see the state of absoluteness, the one all in Pralaya. So remember to look in which way, when you study, Blavatsky is referring to that chart, eternal and periodical. But then comes something really shocking, an obligatory pilgrimage. I'm trying to avoid this word obligatory. Nobody likes it in talks, but here we are among theosophists, and I'm so safe that you're not going to throw tomatoes at your own TV, computer, or monitor. So I'm very safe here. It's obligatory. I'm safe, right? No eggs, no tomatoes, no, etc. But it's an obligatory pilgrimage. What we need to do with that image is to feel again the monadic impulse, the phohatic attraction of matter to spirit. Remember that one of hundreds of definitions of phohat is that which unites matter to subject to matter, spirit to matter, heaven to earth. And in that phohat is such a, and she calls it in another image, Eros, the god of love, because it's this power of attraction that binds everything. And it's phohat, and it's so constructive, it constructs a universe intelligently, but when it's the time to go the other way, dissolution, it turns into the red dragon of the apocalypse. And the four horses of the apocalypse, it becomes destructive, not in the bad sense, but dissolution. That is the obligatory pilgrimage. So we understand it's cyclical, and according to necessity, this is the law of nature. This is from the Greek, right? The goddess that rules everything with her three daughters. That's in the Republic of Plato, at the end of the Republic. And there are laws. Remember, one of the things we love to study in Theosophy are the laws of nature. It's a requirement. It's our third object. Well, there's cycles and karma laws. The next paragraph is very interesting. This tells us the pilgrimage. In other words, no purely spiritual Buddhi, the soul, now with Atma as a monad, can be a pilgrim, can have an independent conscious existence before the spark that issue from the pure essence of the universal sixth principle, the universal soul, the oversoul, has to pass from the lowest kingdom or form, she calls it, to the highest. You see that? Everything in nature, please keep this idea in mind, everything in nature is evolving. And it's evolving because participate in the monad, correct? No monad, no evolution. So if I have a pen, and I don't have a pen in my hand, that pen is not evolving, thank you. If I have a pen in my hand, this pen is not evolving because it doesn't have a monad. Yet, every atom, molecule in this pen has a monadic essence, is evolving. You see that? Everything in nature has something about this, eternity and evolution. But if I manufacture this, it's not a monad. So the three logos are not monadic, are events, are moments, and so on. Put that thought in your mind, monad and evolution. So as we go from elemental, and we acquire individuality in our own self-induced and self-devised efforts, we ascend through all the degrees of intelligence, of mind, so to speak, from the lowest to the highest mind, from mineral, after being elemental, from mineral to plant to Dhyani Buddhas. Remember, she uses Dhyani Buddhas, Dhyani Chohans, to talk about above human beings, okay? It's a beautiful, important proposition. Therefore, as everything is evolving in nature, she speaks on hierarchy of divine beings and kingdoms in our planet. Follow me? Kingdoms, when she relates to our planet, the hierarchy is evolving, and hierarchies when she goes way beyond that, below and above. So remember, the cosmos is eternal and periodical. In the periodical aspect, we have first logos, second logos, third logos, and then we have the divine dragon of wisdom, and this we're going to see next week. And the seventh breath creates the primordial seven. Emerges, come into being, come into existence. This now have monads. They are evolving. And these primordial seven are described in stanza 4. We're going to see them next month. And their names are essences, flames, elements, builders, numbers, arupa, rupa. I'm going to tell you how to study them if you like the topic. Then from the primordial seven, from their breath, two things happens. Fohat and the second seven, and she called the second seven Lipika. You see, here now you can start thinking in hierarchical terms of divine beings. When it comes to the planet, she's now in anthropogenesis, a little bit in cosmogenesis. And now she's in anthropogenesis, and she describes that in the Secret Doctrine And in taking it and explaining an article in 5 Years of Theosophy, which is called The Mineral Monad. And she says there are 10 kingdoms when we relate to our planet. There is much more, but she's going to focus on 10. 3 elemental kingdoms, 4 objective physical kingdoms, and 3 dhyani chohans. You see that? Every elemental from the elemental kingdoms will become mineral kingdom to human kingdom, and then we'll move to the dhyani chohan kingdom. Everything, every monad has to pass through all this, all together, slowly, in cycles, in many universes, and many kalpas, and many planetary chains. And she gave us a beautiful diagram that we're not going to explain, but they are here. 3 lower kingdoms below the mineral. You see the word mineral here? If not, trust me.
And where's the diagram from?
The mineral kingdom right here.
Where is the diagram? Oh, the 5 years of Theosophy.
5 years
Sorry.
of Theosophy.
Okay, great.
Yes. And then the elementals, remember, an elemental is a creature, a kingdom, less than a mineral, manasically, manas-like. So don't put it like a human being. Don't talk to an elemental, because it doesn't have a mind like ours. It's less than a mineral, but it follows the direction of the architects. And when we interrupt that flow to create this universe and maintain the laws of nature and manifestation, it attaches to us. This is what Blavatsky is telling us. Be careful with elementals. So do you mind to read this? Can you get to it?
It would be very misleading to imagine a monad as a separate entity, trailing its slow way in a distinct path through the lower kingdoms, and after an incalculable series of transmigrations, flowering into a human being. Instead of saying a mineral monad, would of course have been to call it the monad, manifesting in that form of Prakriti called the mineral
You
kingdom.
see, that's the image. The monad manifesting in that form of Prakriti called the mineral kingdom. Thank you.
There are 7 kingdoms. The first group comprises the 3 degrees of elementals, or nascent center of forces. From the first stage of differentiation of Mula Prakriti to its 3rd degree, that is, from full unconsciousness to semi-perception. The second or higher group embraces the kingdoms from vegetable to man. The mineral kingdom thus forming the central or turning point in the degrees of the monadic essence, considered as an evoluting energy. 3 stages in the elemental side, the mineral kingdom, 3 stages in the objective physical side. These are the 7 links of the evolutionary chain. In man, the monad is fully developed, potential, and either passive or absolutely active, according to its vehicle, the 5 lower and more physical human principles. In the Deva kingdom, it is fully liberated and in its highest state, but 1 degree lower than the one universal life. And here when she says Deva kingdom, she means the dhyani chohan.
Yes, the higher
level.
group
Yeah.
here, which she doesn't describe. But in the Secret Doctrine, she spells them. This is from the article, and she took ideas from this article and developed in the Secret Doctrine, Volume 1. It's very interesting. The Mahatma letters also explains the aspect of the 3 lower elemental kingdom, and the dhyani Buddhas, dhyani chohans, higher than a human being. So by 2 things very important here by analogy. When she says Mula Prakriti, remember the running analogy in the Secret Doctrine is processes and functions of the universe is analogous on a solar system, analogous to a planet Earth, analogous to a human being. So when she said, referring to our planet, is in our planet, Mula Prakriti is the material that will make the planet. You see that? Not the universe. So therefore, she said these elemental kingdoms come from the appearance, when the solar system with our planet show up. See at what level she's talking. And that's very different from the ones we're going to study next month in stanza 3 and stanza 4. That is the Mula Prakriti at the universal level. Very important to see that analogy. Universe, remember? Universe, solar systems, planets, human, atoms, all that is in the Secret Doctrine. When she says worlds, she refers to the solar system, as well as nowadays we can talk about galaxies, but we're still learning about galaxies a lot. So what's very interesting is when she describes the number of these kingdoms and hierarchies, she says almost countless. So there's a bunch below this and a bunch above that. What we know is that the first 7, there's a lot of description about the primordial 7. There is a lot of it about the Lipikas and with Fohat, working with Fohat. We're going to see that next week.
And the
yes.
Lipika form the boundary of experience,
The
right?
Rinpoche not in everything, yes.
So they set up the boundaries of the manifested world or of the person that's necessary to have this experience.
Okay, the boundaries is needed because Fohat is at work. Imagine you have a very powerful energy and you don't have boundaries. Oh my God, it's all chaotic, destructive. It's this total power. So the Lipikas rules. And we're going to see the dance of Fohat creating wills and the Lipika saying, oh, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. This is what a human being means. This is what a Dianchohan means. This is what a planet is. Oh, this is what a solar system is. This is the role of the Lipikas. Isn't that beautiful? The Secret Doctrine is majestic. Yes, majestic. Therefore, look at this article, locate the section if you are interested on the ideas of the elementals, their work and function, the 4 objective kingdoms, and the 3 above. You can study the 3 above human beings because by analogy, the next 3 globes, remember we're in the 4th globe, D, the next 3 globes to complete the planetary chain Earth are analogous at the 3 Dianichohans that we're going to be next in the next planet. You see that? It's giving us an idea how to see where we're going with this, their description, their function, their work, their connections, what they do. This is our job in the future. And that's why she said, study by analogy. And I explained analogy last time. So here I am, a human being, 2 natures, the spiritual and the mortal, or as depicted in the esoteric instructions. Actually, I have 3 aspects, in general, spirit, soul, and body. I'm a 7-folded or 7 principle. According to Theosophy, remember, only Theosophy teaches the 7-fold. What she does in her work of the Secret Doctrine and the Key to Theosophy is connecting, contrasting, and comparing with other traditions. This was a secret teaching, a revelation of the 7-fold constitution. And remember, Atma or spirit is an aspect of the absolute. Buddhi, the vehicle of Atma, is a drop of the ocean, a spark of Alaya, of the universal soul, of the ocean of wisdom. This is an incredible moment in Theosophy when you can realize these ideas and contemplate. Thank you so much. And you have exactly 2 minutes to clarify everything that I said. And that job is Richard.
Nice. Martin, thank you. Look, there's a small dawning coming in my mind with some of the stuff as we slowly bring it together. So it's amazing. I have a question for you. Hopefully we have some more questions in the chat. One of the slides was talking about in the third fundamental proposition, through our own personal effort and merits through a series of metempsychosis and reincarnations. I think it was the next slide.
The next slide.
And I just wondered if you could just talk about, the metempsychosis. My understanding was that it was a series of sort of
long series of metempsychosis.
Transformations. But what, in your view, does that actually mean?
Okay, so we know that this process, from very elemental form to Adhyani Buddha, and this is endless in the sense of takes a long time, a lot of hierarchies, a lot of kingdoms. In esoteric philosophy, the idea is that nobody is going to save you. Nobody is going to do the work for you. You are here doing your role, collecting honey. But as a human being, we already have awareness of it. So we need to do it with self-induced, self-devised effort, checked by karma. Yet, if we look at the whole cycle, from elemental, that's below the mineral kingdom, to Dhyani Buddhas, that's above the human kingdom, we need words to express how they move from kingdom to kingdom. And that word is metempsychosis. It's where the soul moves beyond what it's doing. It's beyond my humanness. I go into animalness or to another planet. My soul moves. But if I'm going to reincarnate in a human being, it's a reincarnating ego. So there are different processes that she's going to tell us. And she uses these two words. It's more complicated like that, because in the Mahatma letters, Sinet asks, well, I can't use the word reincarnation when a mineral dies and reincarnates in another mineral. There is no carnation, there is no flesh there. So they had to locate vocabulary, words, and they use
immetalization,
implantation, in vegetable and animal. You see that? Vocabulary to express the idea. So these are two ideas, general ideas. One, I reincarnate in humans in my world of samsara, very beautiful described, right, in that circle of samsara. But beyond that, even below that, metempsychosis. Something like that. Does it explain?
So
it does. It's a term that's, if you look it up in the dictionaries, it talks about going back into an animal nature. There's quite a bit of confusion over what it is, right. So it's good to get it.
And again, it's a choice of words, right? Blavatsky had very few words to explain a universal process, right? From something we don't know to something that we don't know. But we know we reincarnate here. It's a word that we commonly use, but we don't have commonly words for other periodical aspects of our nature, right? In minerals, in elementals, in Dhyani Buddhas. Yes, I'm sorry.
And then also metempsychosis. It was interesting. When she was talking about the mineral kingdom, it seems like such a subtle difference to me. She said it's best not to think of the monad as sort of traveling through the forms, but the monad becomes immersed through a particular form. It seems to really want to link the monad to the experience, the essential experience of a kingdom in a form. And that seems to me what she means by the metempsychosis process, because
Right.
reincarnations is sort of talking about life to life within
Right.
one sort of experience or kingdom. But metempsychosis is to me, it seems the way that the monad immerses itself in a particular experience, a kingdom,
other than
in order
human.
to evolve.
Now, I've also heard people say metempsychosis from race to race, humanities to humanities, something larger than what we are now, from Atlanteans to our feet, from Lemurians. They use the word metempsychosis. So I use reincarnation for everything about humans, and everything else I put metempsychosis, or I look for other words similar to that.
I think of things other than the human kingdom. Yeah, that makes sense. I have a question here from Tony Weir. She says, "Oh my goodness, so our obligatory pilgrimage means that the monad in me came into existence in the first globe, ? Or just in the creation of this planet? So it's about when did the monad come into being?"
Okay, so if you remember in this article, Blavatsky said, don't think about monad up to higher animals as individual monads. The individuality of the monad appears, and this is in the article in the Secret Doctrine, when we become higher animals, mammals, higher mammals, right? It's not even insects. So up to that point is monadic essence. It's a group, like a group monad idea. It's a monad impulsing like race, the mineral kingdom, the animal kingdom, and early kingdoms too, right? Elementary kingdoms, up to the human being or higher animals. You can look at the eyes of a dog and you see a monad there, you know. So there is a point that we gain that monadic moment, and that is explained here in this article, very beautiful. And from that moment, we realize the obligatory pilgrimage. Now we realize the responsibility that we have to gather honey, which only means to become virtuous, to become walking in the paramitas, to be fraternal, to help each other. It means to have also the illuminating knowledge, like in the voice of the silence, of how to build the next body, which is Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, Dharmakaya. These are esoteric teachings in the voice of the silence, right? And in that we gain by understanding the path in Antakarana, from below to above. So all that is tied in the voice of the silence in the fragment 3, when she explains the other side of the coin, the occult path that we all walk. And therefore it's complicated, but you can see that once we acquire the monastic individual experience, now what do we do with that? We have to realize that we are walking on a road that is taken to a path, number 69, fragment 1 of the voice. And then we pursue wisdom. It's more or less.
A very long journey.
Oh yes.
One of the things you mentioned was about the 10 kingdoms, and we read in some literature that the I suppose purpose of humanity is to reach the adeptship or a master of the wisdom state. So am I right in assuming if one does that, that's the Dhyani Chohan status with those 3 you were talking about? And if it is that where we stop for this chain of events for us, or do we still involve the other 2 higher up as part of our evolution that these monads, all of us monads, are on?
Cool. And this is the confusion that happens with the Mahatmas and Sinet, that Blavatsky tried to explain when the masters say it, say that the Buddha is of the 7 and the other is of the 5th and the 4th, and it was a lot of confusion in the vocabulary. In the voice of the silence, which is our directive to understand these ideas, is what we need to focus to understand the path. She says the following: a candidate, the moment that the candidates realize that they are on the path, they enter the path of the paramitas. At the very end, they get the illumination, which means whenever you contemplate an idea, you get the light. You know exactly dharana, dhyana, samadhi. You know how to concentrate, to contemplate, and get the light. You know it. You are a God. You are in prajna paramita. Now, at that very moment, the voice of the silent switches and says, now choose. You liberate or you become an adept. You become, you renounce to that, you see? You get liberation, which she explains in the Secret Doctrine. It only means you finish what you come to do as a human being. In this root race, you still need to wait till the next one. Why? Because we need to learn things with a new body, a new expression, material expression, a new quaternary that expresses differently these ideas. We need to continue learning. This is endless. So an adept is that, or a saint, or a seer, or etc., an initiate, a higher degree, right? A Mahatma is the one who has become, according to the voice, a master of himself or herself in the last paramita, prajna paramita. In the fragment 1, it totally have under control and at will dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, which is know how to concentrate, contemplate, and be one with it, with whatever you want to be. You're one with it. And then prajna paramita flowers. You see it. Now you're an adept. But then you have the choice. It doesn't end there. You have the choice. And that choice is, if you want liberation, fine. Now you wait. You see that? That wait is the rest of our root race. But we have branches, and it's a long way, Richard. It's a long way. And they all have periods of activities and periods of rest, and it's endless. So the Dhyani Buddha part is an idea that we're going to be that next as an analogy. So the next root race is going to be like a Dhyani Chohan there. The 7th root race, like the last Dhyani Chohan that she's explaining in the Masters. In the next globe, is like, an analogy. But then when we complete our planet, we're going to be the first Dhyani Buddha. Then the next planet, the next Dhyani Buddha. Each one has description, function. It's very beautiful plan. It's called by Barborka a divine plan. Blavatsky didn't call it like that. She called it divine ideation. Divine ideation.
They're both good words. Tony said, thank you for the clarification. It was really interested. And she said, you're a compelling speaker, which of course you are. So thanks for that. I did have, unless there's any other questions from the audience, did have one last question. At the beginning, we were talking about the 7 globes. And there is confusion, my guess, as it came via the Mahatma letters, whether these globes are 7 different, like physical globes, etc. Or, I've also read and heard that maybe these globes are just Earth, 7 globes of Earth, of etheric, astral, mental globes, and so those 7 belong to Earth, not separate. Could you comment on that?
Blavatsky tried to fix the vocabulary used by the masters and Sinet. Yeah. So let's understand the laws. Remember, one of the things that we need to study are the laws of nature. This is the law. And Blavatsky wrote the following. It
It
is?
is idle to speak of laws arising when deity prepares to create, for A, or rather law is eternal and uncreated, and B, that deity is law.
So deity is law, law is eternal, deity is eternal. Then?
Moreover, the one eternal law unfolds everything in the to be manifested nature on a sevenfold principle.
Okay, the law is eternal and manifest. You see that? Eternal and periodical. Then?
Among the rest, the countless circular chains of worlds, composed of 7 globes, graduated on the 4 lower planes of the world of formation, the 3 others belonging to the archetypal universe.
The next paragraph, she says, this law unfolds nature in 7, according to the count of 7 principles. That we're going to see next week, how nature does that, the universe, these 7. This is very important. But on those 7 principles, 7 planes in the universe, this is the key here. In everything else that you see that the law does is a countless circular chains of globes. What she's not saying that every monad has to go through. You see, this is our theater of life. This is our play. This is what we do. And it's countless. And it's a change of worlds or planets, right? Composed of 7 globes. Those are the famous 7. That's the question. Graduated, here's the key, on the 4 lower planes of the world of formation, which is the lowest. So on the 4 lowest, you have 7 globes. Now, of these 7, by the way, the rest I'm not talking now because it's Kabbalah. She's taking this from Kabbalah, this vocabulary, formative, archetypical, etc., etc. But she gave us an illustration for that. So out of these 7, what 7? 7 globes. Only one. Here's the point that she wants to make. That's why she put it in italic, because she wants to correct now misinterpretations by the vocabulary in the Mahatma letters. Out of these 7, which are on the 4 lower planes, only one, the lowest and the most material of these globes, is within our plane or means of perception. The others, the 6 others, lying outside of it and being therefore invisible to the terrestrial eye. Therefore, if Mars is one of them, it cannot be one of the globes of this planet because it's visible, very visible. You see, we can see it with our eyes.
So are the invisible globes also Earth, is what we're asking.
Earth is 7-folded like us, but no other planetary chain are involved in it. That's what Blavatsky is telling. When you talk about Mars, there is a whole planetary chain. Mercury, a whole planetary chain. In fact, cosmogenesis starts by saying the cry of the planet Earth to the soul, to the sun, saying, why don't you do to this planet, send the monads like you did to Mercury? Another planet. And that's stanza 1-1. And that's, stanza 1-2. And then the sun says, oh my God, you know nothing. I did that to the moon. So the moon is the one who are going to send your monads. Mercury already did all that. You see that? The vocabulary, the stanzas, they all tell the narrative. Only the lowest is visible. Interesting. I don't know if that answered it, but it's
You turn that. That does, Martin. I think that clarifies that a lot, because I have had that quite a few times in discussions I've had with various people, and it's always been a bit of a fuzzy one, because
and
there's
just
a bit of an
quote
argument,
like,
I think, with Sinners about
just
Mars and
quote it. 4 lower planes, only one.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, just quote it. The other is not theosophy, but it's a point of view, which is all cool too. You know, we hear all the point of view, right?
Okay. Well, I think unless there's any other questions, I'd like to thank you very much for yet another really interesting and compelling presentation to both of you, Martin and Susan. So thank you so much. And thank you to all our audience and participants. I'm sure you really enjoyed today's session as well, just like we did here at the Santa House. Next time is the fourth and final one, which is on the 3rd of December. And it's key ideas in the cosmogenesis stances of Xian, which will be equally enthralling, I'm sure. So until that time, thank you very much, and everyone go well, and we'll see you in about 4 weeks' time.